compelled me to serve was first, I come from a legacy of service. My father was the first Cuban mayor of Miami in 1985. I'm the first Miami-born mayor of the city. And so certainly living in a household where public service was something that I grew up with gave me that desire and that understanding that when you're able to help somebody, there is an incalculable benefit, not only to yourself, but to the community as a whole. And for me, that's very, very compelling. And so, and I think, government, unfortunately, oftentimes is not seen as a collaborator, as a facilitator. I, as a public official and as a mayor, see myself as the chief facilitator, chief collaborator, to try to make small businesses and large businesses thrive and succeed in my city. That allows for people to be employed, hopefully for high-paying jobs, and it creates an economy in a city that's thriving, where people can be successful. So that's how I view it, and I think that's what government's objective should be.
Agreed, Francis. Fantastic points. And so for the next question, I'd like to direct myself to Jonathan Vilma. So you've always had an interest in real estate, even well before your NFL career. And what really stands out to me about your career is that you said before that making money, but also balancing doing well by the community is very central to your strategy. So can you tell us a little bit more about the vision and strategy behind your investments in the Miami market?
Yeah, it started with, the way I grew up. I was actually living down in Kendall, but was going to Coral Gables Senior High, and I was part of the IB program when I was there, and then played football. So I was over in school time, with the smart kids, and then after hours, I was with the football kids, and it was always interesting to me to see that the dynamics are very different as far as access to capital, access to education, and to resources, but everyone was the same. And so I really enjoyed being able to relate to both groups, classes, white, black, Spanish, rich, poor, it didn't matter. And so that was something that was always big to me, because I always view people as just that, just individuals, and you view the individual, and you want to then be a friend or not a friend or what have you. So from being fortunate to have success in the NFL, I still see a lot of the communities being very similar to when I went to high school 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And, I want to be able to have an opportunity to do well. Obviously, making money is good, but to also impact communities, because I've seen what it is when someone does have access, or when someone does finally get afforded the resources to better themselves. And so that's always been part of my vision. And, that's what led me to Rishi being the founder of Forum. And when we first spoke, our first sit down was talking about just that. And I told Rishi that if Forum is going to be a platform to do it, I would definitely like to invest. And that's where we've been now for the past 3 years, going on 3 years. So it's been well.
Wonderful, Jonathan. Thank you so much. And then now I want to direct myself to Patrick Murphy. So from your experience as a congressional representative and also CIO of Coastal Construction, how has Miami helped to spur your journey as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to thank you for hosting this, Ibis, and Forum, and Rishi for putting this all together. And it's an honor to be on the panel with Jonathan and Mayor Suarez. And very humble of you, Mayor Suarez, to say that we've shaped the city more than the mayor. I don't know about that. I think you're doing a pretty good job. Very humble of you. Look, we're blessed to be in a great city. We have great leadership, but we happen to be in a great state that is a magnet for business, right? Just last week, a big announcement that Goldman Sachs wants to move their asset management division down to South Florida, between Palm Beach to Miami. Wherever it ends up landing, that is great for South Florida. Right, we are a tri-county area that is attracting some of the top businesses and top entrepreneurs from around the world, quite frankly, right? I think the mayor mentioned being this gateway to South America. That kind of kicked it off, but it's becoming much bigger than that. So I think we're poised for at least a decade of great growth. Right? We think we just had a great decade or two. What we just went through, I think that's sort of the dawn of what we're about to enter here. So. What Forum is doing, what I think Miami is doing, is creating this culture to allow a lot of ideas, a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of diversity to come together and start something special, right? Because we are in a unique environment filled with energy here. So I think what you're doing specifically with Forum is really fostering that conversation to happen, not sort of forcing people, letting it happen organically with that opportunity there in the Gable specifically, with the open format for the offices and the kitchen and so many young people coming together. Proud to be a small piece of it, as Jonathan alluded to, being an investor there and part of that. And my background at Coastal and work on some of the investments that we're looking at enables us to get pretty good idea what's happening around the state of Florida, looking at a lot of the businesses coming to town, and I think we're as poised as any state in the country to succeed.
Definitely, I so definitely agree, Patrick. So right now, speaking of that, Miami is in the midst of a construction and development boom, and there's so many innovative and promising changes taking place just in the commercial real estate industry. So back to my point earlier about Miami becoming a major co-working hub, here are the numbers to show exactly where we are. As a percentage of total stock, Miami has the most co-working space at 2.7% of the metro's 50.5 million square feet of space, according to a study, which basically, again, has us beating New York City, with Manhattan coming in second at 1.7%. So why has co-working become such a big hit in Miami? There's, of course, a lot of growing number of entrepreneurs and startup businesses that are making Miami their home, and flexible co-work space is key to supporting startups and relocation activity. And I guess to mention the elephant in the room, the COVID-19 pandemic has definitely presented difficulties, but to many entrepreneurs, opportunities where ample resources, creativity, and flexibility are not just crucial to survive, but to thrive. So I'd like to direct myself back to Jonathan. As an investor in Forum, how does this complement your vision, your grander vision for Miami?
Well, you touched on Ibis with us being kind of at the forefront, and Forum being at the forefront of not just doing the same old and the cookie cutter type of way of looking at either real estate or investing. And so we've been very, very intentional in looking at how are the younger generations now starting to work, live, how are they able to frankly afford Miami. And it goes back to having access and being able to be around some of the resources and have those. And that's what Forum provides. And this is why I said when Rishi and I first spoke, we were already in sync regarding our fundamentals to investing. And then Forum is just a platform that we're using because we're able to say, well, we have the ability to provide people access into Coral Gables, which is where Forum is right now, our first location. And everyone knows for Coral Gables, the brand that they've built as far as being pristine, as far as the access to not only capital, to education, to resources, et cetera. And so Forum is allowing for that ability to come in. You're able to now have a co-working space. Your peers are individuals that you want to work with, want to do business with. And then it allows you the flexibility and the affordability to either set up with bigger office space or just have a desk. And these are the things that I've always looked for when investing, because now it's touching on all points. Anybody is able to now come into Forum. It's a price point where it's affordable for anybody to come, just have a desk and set up shop. It provides the ability to speak, because networking, as we all know, is key. It's sometimes more about who you know than what you know. And being around these individuals in our Forum space, and as I said, in the Coral Gables area, as our first location, that's phenomenal. You can't ask for anything better. And then you have the ability now to, after your work-life balance can be there. If you are in the Coral Gables area, you want to go to happy hour. There's awesome happy hour around the area. If you want to go to dinner, we know that dinner is great. There's all these components to it where we just don't look at it as, okay, narrow lens, you come in, you go to work, get up and leave. That was kind of an archaic model, which worked 20, 30 years ago, but that's different now. And the people that are coming up, the workforce that's coming up, it's more about looking at things holistically. It's not just about when I'm at work, I'm out, drive for, an hour and a half, sit in traffic just to do it all over again. They want to have the ability to work, play, live, eat, sleep, everything in that area. And that's what Forum provides.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jonathan. And actually, I would love to follow up with further questions about your other investments besides that in Forum. So I know that you're also a major investor in Beancho. So, you know, a lot of us enjoy Beancho for lunch, for dinner, and I think it's part of a great, you know, growing like boutique food scene. So, you know, what are your thoughts on the diversifying industries and supporting local in Miami?
Yeah, I've always been, as I mentioned, big on supporting local and diversifying industries. For me, it's no different than a stock portfolio. You know, you want to be able to kind of touch on different areas and be able to have the ability for making money and doing good. Pincho guys are local. It made sense, right? That's kind of what I like to do. And you know, fortunately, it's been kind of a, you know, you can say one thing, but then your actions speak louder than words. And I always went by the model of, you know, let your actions speak so loudly that I can't hear what you say. And so if I'm telling you that I want to be a part of the community, then my actions have to show that and support that. And that's what Pincho is. It's another good investment that fit the same criteria, local guys. And as I mentioned, it's about the community, building up the community. Pincho being right there in the Gables area, you know, it speaks for itself.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jonathan. And then now to Francis. So, you know, you're not just the mayor of the city of Miami, but also an attorney at law. So my first question to you is, you know, how did you prepare yourself to run for the city of Miami with your experience in the private sector here?
Well, I think it helps that I come from the private sector. I think it helps that I was a real estate lawyer and I'm still a real estate lawyer. I've been a real estate lawyer for about 15 years since I graduated from law school. I think it gives me a perspective on the main revenue generator for the city, which is real estate property taxes. I have an understanding of the market, so I have a sense of where the city is going to go in terms of its growth. You know, we grew my first year 8.5%, my second year 10.5%, and this year 6.5%, which is great considering the fact that we have, you know, we're in the midst of a pandemic. And we've also kept taxes low. You know, under my leadership, we lowered taxes to the second lowest level since the 1960s. So, and I understand that by shrinking the size of government while providing the necessary resources to create equity and to keep us climate ready, we are empowering our residents to be able to do the kinds of things that Jonathan is talking about, to be able to invest in businesses, and to be able to grow this sort of entrepreneurial ecosystem that we have here in the city. So for me, I think being a lawyer obviously helps in terms of the legislative component of what I do. I think being a real estate lawyer helps understanding the market and understanding how our assets interact with our government. I'm also a finance major undergrad, so I think that also helps. But my real estate work and my legal work and corporate work helped me have a pulse on what's going on in the community, on where capital is flowing. Right now, there's a tremendous amount of capital coming to the city of Miami from so many different industries, the tech industry right now, obviously the financial industry, as Congressman Murphy alluded to in his introductory comments. And of course, you know, we're just seeing a tremendous amount of entrepreneurial activity, as Jonathan was saying, which is continuing the growth of our city. What I love about our city is it's not a lot of chains. You know what I mean? It's a lot of you know, sort of homegrown local companies that are growing. They can grow into sort of be franchises, but they're not the kind of stuff necessarily that you see all over the place. And you know, and one last thing I would say is, you know, that the concept, you know, COVID has really sort of changed the game for everyone, and really to sort of piggyback off of what Jonathan said, you know, it's created an atmosphere where you must be flexible, you must be adaptable, you must be able to grow and contract quickly. And I think, you know, all of Rishi's work in the co-working space and the co-living space and making it something more than just real estate, making it something that is alive and almost breathes through Forum and through a variety of other interactive ways of creating value. I think that's what's making this so special and what's going to make our city affordable on the one hand, and also create a tremendous value added proposition on the other.
Excellent, Francis. And then what I want to follow up with is that I think you made some great points about the startup activity in Miami and why it's just so active. And so can you also speak to that entrepreneurial activity in terms of, like what you're involved in regards to community building initiatives. How can those of us who want to support startups get involved?
Well, I would definitely first reach out to my office. I did something which is interesting, which is about 2 Thursdays ago. Somebody tweeted, "What if we brought Silicon Valley to Miami?" And I tweeted very simply 4 words: "How can I help?" And just tweeting those 4 words, it did a variety of things. The first is it created this dynamic where you have a mayor that wants to attract tech to his city, as opposed to someone who wants to push tech out, which are high-paying jobs. And listen, we understand that tech has a reputation, and we want to, meet that reputation head on and make sure, as Jonathan was saying, that that every child in our city has an opportunity to be successful, right? We don't want an industry that just benefits a certain segment of our society. So that is obviously a challenge, and that's one that we're going to confront. But that tweet alone got 3 million impressions, which says to me that there is a tremendous appetite for mobility right now, for migration in terms of that industry. And Patrick gave 2 examples of great examples of the financial one in Goldman Sachs. The other one was Blackstone, that is also saying that they're moving their headquarters, and we're seeing migration out of high tax states. So we have to take advantage of it. Listen, this is a worldwide competition, right? Anyone that tells you otherwise is fooling you. Patrick knows, because he does work worldwide. Cities are competing with each other across the world. And my job is to make Miami the most competitive city, and hopefully be a model for other cities in the nation in my work at the Conference of Mayors, so that other cities can understand, hey, this is the model of success and we need to replicate it.
Excellent, Francis, thank you. And then now I'd love to direct myself to Patrick. So, would you mind expanding on some of the tech startups that you've been investing in? And, as a part of Coastal, what are you witnessing on that front?
The core business at Coastal is a construction company. We focus on multifamily, hospitality, commercial, and have a division that does single family custom homes. So been blessed with a great team to be able to expand, starting in the Florida Keys to Miami, Broward, Palm Beach, now really through the state of Florida. So that's the core business, and blessed to be in a state with so much growth and so much opportunity. My focus, especially more recently, has been how do we diversify the company? How do we make sure that this is a company that's going to continue to be around for future generations? And looking at some potential technologies, some potential businesses that would add to the core. Some of the examples, one in particular I'm working on now, is an artificial intelligence, a machine learning company that helps the estimating department, not just in our company, but really for all construction companies out there. Construction at large is the largest industry with the least amount of digitization, right? It has very little technology disruption in it. Many people in Silicon Valley and around have commented that this is, the real estate industry, construction specifically, is an industry they want to target going forward because it is poised for change. Knowing that, and knowing, just from the inside, having a construction background, the way things have been done for, decades, if not longer, really hasn't changed much. So we've been working with some great tech folks, some machine learning engineers, and others to help us build a AI platform that will reduce one segment of the workload from weeks down to mere seconds. This is a platform that has implications not only for general contractors, but subcontractors globally. Whether you're a plumber doing $5 million or a general contractor doing $5 billion, the tech we're building is scalable for all sizes. And, something that, as the mayor mentioned, trying to attract tech. This is a little baby company, right? Hopefully we make it big, but the idea is that if we can have some successful startups here in South Florida, that serves as a great argument for the mayor and others to say, hey, look what we're doing right here. We've got the talent, right? Because that's what you always hear about when you're in Silicon Valley or New York as well. Maybe I come to Miami, but I just don't know if the talent's there. Well, guess what? It's here. We're creating it, right? And you got to crawl for your walk. So having startups in South Florida that make it, right, that run that gauntlet and are eventually successful, is a great argument for leaders like the mayor and others to make to help continue attracting more bigger technology companies, financial companies, whatever it might be, that, hey, we've got the education, we've got the diversity, we've got the entrepreneurs here, and guess what? We've got offices like Forum that can host these businesses.
Totally, I completely agree. And so I think another great follow-up question is that I know you've been very concerned throughout your career with the needs of young entrepreneurs. I think the South Florida Business Journal recently released a fantastic feature on the needs of millennial entrepreneurs. Because now the oldest of us, my generation, we're reaching 40. And so we're reaching that point where we're amassing capital and resources to be able to, do our own startup activity and start our own mostly small to medium-sized businesses, which seems to be the trend. And so since you have such a great contrast between your experience as a congressional representative, but also being in the private sector, and I would love for Mayor Suarez to follow up as well, like what do you feel that the next generation of entrepreneurs need in terms of support?
I think one of the sort of underappreciated tools that's available is government. Right, a lot of people complain about government. Oh, it's a pain. It's my way. Taxes. My road has holes in it. Whatever. But the truth is, there's a lot of really cool programs in Miami and the state of Florida federally that can help with seed capital, that can help with incubators, that can help launch companies and really get them started. And you can't rely on it, but there are some very valuable tools that I think are underappreciated that I didn't know about until I was in public service myself. So, that's for sure one, thing that should be considered. Another big thing, of course, is just having that capital, right? Just having that startup money. As Jonathan was talking about, we needed an environment that is equal for everybody, that it shouldn't matter what your background and who your family is, or whatever, that everyone that has a good idea has that opportunity to get started. So as we start to get more technology companies, as we start to get more financial companies here, getting these seed capital, these venture capital funds here that are believing in startups locally is critical, right? I mean, that at the end of the day is what's necessary to get a lot of companies off the ground, is just that first, few bucks to get them started. So I think that's critical. And the last thing I'll say is just that network, right? If you're, stuck in a basement and you don't ever meet anybody, that might not be the best, way to start a business. That's important to be focused, but talking to your peers, talking to other entrepreneurs that have, perhaps made it, and maybe a month or a year or 5 years in front of you on that roadmap, could probably give some insights into the challenges they face and how they overcame them, can help with connections. And, I think that's the whole idea. And one of the beauties of the working space is that happens organically, that you're surrounded by people from all different sectors that have had probably similar challenges that could help you address those challenges without hiring some fancy consultant or something.
Yeah, I would say, first of all, there are no potholes in Miami, so that's good. Second of all, I say 40 is a new 2060. You feel like you're 20, but you have capital like you're 60. So, hopefully you can get some stuff done. And third, I would say is, and this goes to Patrick's point, which is, government is big business. People don't understand the kind of purchasing power that governments have. We think about, I think somebody was telling me the other day, our school board is the second largest employer in the state of Florida, second largest employer. When you aggregate the budgets of the state of Florida, of Miami-Dade County, and of the city of Miami, when you add those budgets together, you have $100 billion in annual purchasing power. And let me repeat that. You have $100 billion in annual purchasing power. That means those three governments in 12 months are spending $100 billion. And so that's incredibly powerful. And people sometimes don't, and by the way, I'll break it down for you. It's 90 million the state, 9 million Miami-Dade County, and I'm sorry, 90 billion the state, 9 billion Miami-Dade County, and $1 billion the city of Miami. So you're talking about $100 billion worth of annual spending power. So, and that's not only, that's aside from their regulatory function, right? And their ability to get you a permit which Jonathan and Patrick know is so critical to get a permit fast. You know what I mean? For government to act like time matters, for them to feel like, that there's carrying costs involved in doing a project, in doing an interior build out of a restaurant, and building a single family or multi-family home. Those are all things that either lead to your success or they lead to your demise if you don't plan for them properly and if government isn't helping you along the way.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Mayor Suarez. And then back to, so I would love to hear from Jonathan, since you talked a lot about, your inspiration during your school years, like what kind of support do you see evolving to support entrepreneurs who, let's say, are in middle or even high school? Like what do you feel is necessary to help inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs?
Well, I would love to see classes. I would love to see more thought-provoking classes, because right now, the school system, the way it's set up is archaic, and it's really based on memorization as opposed to creativity and thinking. And I would love to see that, because that's what entrepreneurs are, right? And especially startup entrepreneurs, all you're doing is thinking. You have ideas, you're creative, and then it's about how hard you can hustle and the access that you have. So I would love to see that more. Or I should say, I would love to see that welcomed more in high schools, as opposed to everything being based on FCAT or whatever standardized testing the schools are now being basically subjected to for their funding. So that would be for the high school students, and then for the college students, it would be creating more groups. I think that in college you have two types of individuals, where you have one that is going to go down this path of possibly getting the best grades, and from there they go and get a job and go from there. And then you have the ones that are going to college to get their basic skills, learning skills, life skills, and then they want to venture out on their own and try to figure out how to make a buck. So you have those types of individuals. I think that both should be welcomed, neither should be judged. And they should have more platforms in colleges to be able to provide for that dynamic, the different dynamics, as opposed to a feeder system of just one way or another. That's what I would love to see for young entrepreneurs. And then I would also say that ones that are outside of high school or college, find a mentor, find someone that you could talk to, you can lean on, you can ask questions. And it's not to do it exactly their way, it's just to get advice, because no matter how smart you are, experience is always smarter. And if you gain some knowledge from someone that's been there, done that, as Patrick was mentioning, and they can give you kind of the roadmap, it doesn't mean you have to take that exact way, but you at least know some of the bumps that are going to lie ahead for you and can prepare for it. That experience, man, hearing someone that's been through it and has the experience is just vital. So I would definitely say find a mentor, or find a mentor group, a group that you can talk with on a regular basis. And as Patrick said, bounce ideas off each other, find ways to, kind of shorten that path, or at least prepare yourself a little bit better.
Oh gosh, I mean, Jonathan, you sound like a great mentor yourself. If there's a way that people can apply just to be able to speak to you, that would be fantastic.
I have messed up many times. I don't know if they want me to be the mentor. I missed many tackles, and look, I've made many mistakes. So
I don't think you missed many tackles.
But you learn, right? That you learn the most, not from your successes, but from your mistakes. And so I would love to direct this question to all of you. So for everyone, what were some of the insights that were shared with each of you earlier in your careers that you've carried with you? Whether it be one person in particular, or a collection of advice from different people, we'd love to hear.
My grandfather used to, my grandfather used to always say, the harder I work, the luckier I get. Right. And I'm sure everyone, on this call, the panelists and attendees could probably attest to that, there's a lot of hard work involved in any success. And some might call it lucky, but it usually didn't just happen because of luck, right? That there's a lot of hours, there's a lot of conversations, a lot of mentorship, a lot of listening, biting your ego, whatever it might be, in order for you to succeed in different arenas. So I would say hard work pays off.
And for me, the best advice I got was no matter what you learn in college, high school, whatever degree you have, it's still and always will be about the people you have around you, your connections, your employees, employer, whatever it is, it's always about the people. And you have to really make time to intentionally and consciously make sure that your circle is helping you grow, the people around you are helping you grow, and then whatever business you're in, whether it's a startup or more mature business, the individuals you have tasked to do the assignments, you just, it's like scouting. You just have to keep scouting and make sure you have the best talent around you, and the talent that fits, not the yes men. It has to be the one that fits for you and can help the business grow. So it's always about the people.
Yeah, I would say sort of dovetailing off something that Patrick said, which is, a saying that I hear a lot in churches, which is they see the glory, but they don't know the real story, which is, they'll see Jonathan on Saturday or Sunday, but they don't realize all the hard work, all the practice hours, all the lifting, you know what I mean? All the, the sacrifices of not being able to go to this party or that party or whatever, to be able to focus and be ready when your number is called. And I think that's, that's what oftentimes is overlooked, or sort of, there's a glamour to what we do or what we've done. And people don't realize that there's a lot of grinding that goes into getting to that point. And I think the other one is, and I don't want to sound hokey pokey, but I think being honest, being transparent, are things that they create a genuineness. Like what Jonathan's talking about. It's important that no matter where you get in life, you never lose sight of the fact that you put on your clothes the same way that everybody else does. And that you should treat everybody with respect, no matter what, no matter who they are, no matter what they do. You never know when your employee is going to be your boss. That's another one that I've always remembered. And there have been times where as I was someone's employee and now I'm their boss. And it's also happened to me in the reverse. So you never know when you have to treat everybody well, because that person could be your boss one day. And you realize, this person's that's gonna shape how they see you. So I think those are some of the lessons that I've learned, sort of coming up and understanding that, you always should. Then the other one that I love is you never overpromise and underdeliver. I always like to say, you always try to underpromise and overdeliver. Say, hey, if you want one, I'm gonna get you two. If if you think I can do this, I'm gonna do this plus. And I think, if you always over deliver, people, they'll always be happy with you. There's no way they're not going to be.
Definitely. I think these are all really humbling, insightful thoughts. And I really think it sums up well what the key parts of being an entrepreneur are. It's working hard, be ready for sacrifice, humble yourself, and surround yourself with good people, and be nice, because you never know if the person that you're dealing with could be, an employee or an employer or a client in the future. So I think these are really, really great insights. And so I just want to get to, then directing myself to first to Suarez, and Jonathan, and then Murphy. Like what's next? What projects are you working on, and what do you see in the near future?
Well, for me, I think I want to capitalize on this momentum that we have with this sort of startup and financial migration that we're seeing from New York and California. Obviously, we want to get past COVID so that we can return to normalcy. I mean, Miami, after the Super Bowl in January and last January, and our Basel, I mean, we were on fire. And so, from my perspective, being involved with the Conference of Mayors, going and traveling to a variety of other cities, I really don't think that there's a city that really can compete with us. Obviously, I'm the mayor, so that's my job to say that. But I really believe that. I see what we're up against and what we're competing against. So for me, it's continuing to, be a good ambassador for the city, and obviously, I'm going to be involved as a lawyer, as a fundraiser on the private side. That's something that I'm going to be doing and continue to do, because it's my profession. It's what I love to do. I love to, just like I love to city build on the public side, I love to build companies on the private side. And that's something that I enjoy and that I get a challenge out of. So I've been working on and sitting on a few boards, and it's something that I'm going to continue to do going forward.
Excellent. Now, Jonathan.
For me, it's really about continuing what I've already started. As I mentioned, where she continuing this process of not just Forum, but growing out more than just one location. And that's going to be the same for a lot of my other investments, whether it's on Pincho and affordable housing side, whatever it is, it's really just about continuing to grow. And that really takes different shapes, forms with the various investments I'm in, but that's really all for me.
Looking forward, as much opportunity as we have as a city, like any city, there are potential pitfalls ahead and potential challenges that have to be addressed. Being a sustainable city, a city that is prone to climate change, and that will certainly be on the tip of the spear for the impacts of potential climate change. Embracing that, turning that, sort of lemons into lemonade, becoming and continuing to strive to be a more sustainable city. Being prepared for that, I think, is of utmost importance. And I think it actually would breed more confidence with investors and folks, especially in the real estate industry. Number two is something Jonathan touched on. As cities grow, as any city grows, you want to be really careful and cognizant not to box certain people out, certain groups out. That it is an inclusive growth, that everyone has an opportunity, that we're not simply gentrifying and pushing people further and further away where they can't even get to work, right? That we do have an affordable culture with public transportation, with access to all the benefits that South Florida provides. I think is really important. And, a lot of this, falls on leaders like the mayor, but all of us in the business community as well. I think have an important part to play on that. So whether it's, charities you're involved in or groups or just the business you're in, I think it's something for us all to keep in mind.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And then, so now I'd like to dedicate the rest of Entrepreneurship Forum to fielding questions from the audience. A lot of really great commentary and questions here. And so taking a look here, there's a lot of questions about specific help that's available to businesses. So I want to direct myself to David Capelli's question. He wants to ask you, Mayor Suarez, are there any kind of business grants from $10,000 to $25,000 for businesses and startups struggling in the COVID-19 pandemic that could be made available through the CARES Act or the next stimulus bill / federal appropriations package?
As a matter of fact, there are. We put out there, and I've been fighting the last few months to get more CARES Act funding from Miami-Dade County. They got a huge allocation from the federal government. And I think the federal government made a mistake in their haste to get the money out and should have given it out. I know if Patrick would have been there, we would have done it right. They should have given it out based on a CDBG model, which is how we normally get our federal funding. Instead, they created this arbitrary deadline of 500,000 population, which means that only 34 cities got a direct allocation from the federal government. Atlanta, for example, got $88 million. They have 506,000 people. We have 468,000. We got 8.5 right now. We look like we're going to get another 7. So we'll be at 15 when we should have gotten closer to 80. And what we've done with that is we have created as a matter of fact, it's right in the same income category or revenue category that Dave is talking about. We created a program that if you're a City of Miami business, you apply for it and you get a $20,000 grant during COVID from CARES Act money. So yes, that is available. If you go to our website, which is miamigov.com, you'll be able to find the program information there. We're also obviously giving out individual help to people who are struggling today.
Excellent. And then Mayor Suarez, another question for you from Janie Flores, a local radio host who interviews local entrepreneurs and industry leaders. She asks, Mayor Suarez, how can we assure that the huge number of mom and pop businesses in Miami are part of the new influx of high-tech businesses and new venture capital arriving in the area and are not completely priced out of an already difficult financial situation in Miami?
Yeah, that's the trick, and Patrick was talking about it too. That is what is the complex thing about attracting new businesses and new jobs, and we've seen it unfortunately happen in other parts of the country. So we have to be very careful. What I can tell you is that For example, when Amazon HQ2 came to Miami and we're pitching them, and we're in the top 20 of the cities globally or nationally for HQ2, the Amazon itself was very conscientious of the gentrification potential that a company like that could generate. And they wanted to do everything. They wanted to work with us. And I'm sure when they did their deal with Virginia and we're trying to do a deal with New York, they really came in. One of their most emphatic statements and worries was not just, you know, what's the value of the real estate or how much the prices are, where the schools are. They really wanted to get involved in the community. And so I think we have to make sure that when tech comes, we explain to them that, hey, you need to be part of the social fabric. You need to, you need to frequent local businesses, support local businesses. And I think that's something that they're going to be very receptive to, because they realize that there is a bad, sort of reputation that tech has for gentrifying and stratifying different cities. So it's something that we're going to be very focused on.
Excellent. And then the next question we have here is Paola Mendez from the Coral Gables Love blog. For those of you that don't know, she writes up these amazing articles and features on local businesses to support, gift ideas, etc. Highly recommend. So she asks, the government has billions of purchasing power. How can you become a vendor with the state, county, or city? I would love to hear from the three of you, especially Jonathan from like the resident entrepreneur side, and then Murphy and Mayor Suarez from the government side.
Yeah, it's really what I try to do is assess what the government needs help with. And so I mentioned affordable housing briefly, and that's something that I know the government needs help with, affordable housing. We have public housing right now throughout the city where there's a shortfall in the budget to remediate those or frankly tear down some of those buildings. So they as in the government will enter into private-public partnerships. They call them PPPs, and through that, you work out some arrangement with local government. In this case, right now, we're talking Miami-Dade or City of Miami, and you fill that need. That's really what you do, and hopefully you can make some money off of it. And as I've always mentioned, you're doing good for the citizens, and you're doing good for the community. So that's really how I approach it. What does the government need or need help with? What is lacking? What services can you provide? And once you start to kind of just read up and do a little research and understand where there may be some shortfalls for the government and where their priorities lie, that's where you can step in as an entrepreneur or private citizen and go in and say, look, this is what I want to do. This is how I'd like to help. And to Mayor Suarez's credit, to a lot of the city commissioners as well, county commissioners, they've all been very receptive when you're presenting a need filling a need and presenting it in, a very altruistic way with the motive. And again, to Mayor Suarez's point, be very transparent and very honest. Like, yes, I do want to make some money while I'm doing this, but it's also something that's going to be very good for our city and our community. So, when you're honest and you're transparent, it just makes it easy to start doing business that way.
Wow, really great points. I'm really glad that you're encouraging entrepreneurs to make relationships with your local representatives, with your county commissioners, because a lot of times government itself could be a major client. And as long as, like what you say, assessing the needs to see how you can fill certain gaps or certain needs can be a wonderful opportunity for your business. So Patrick, do you have any thoughts on that to follow up?
Yes, spot on, Jonathan. And I would say at the congressional level, don't hesitate to reach out to your member of Congress, whomever that might be. Build a rapport with them. Members of Congress get 2,000 to 3,000 emails, letters, calls a week. But and I don't want to speak for all members, but the goal is to get a response out to each and every one of those constituents within a week or two. A lot of the questions, have to do with Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, maybe VA, that sort of thing. But I'd say 10% or so of the questions are about sort of in the business world. And those are fun questions to get involved with, because your member of Congress can help connect you as a potential vendor, as a potential supplier, government employee to the correct agency and get you in touch with the right people there. Separate from that and reaching out to your member of Congress, I would recommend, depending on the industry you're in, getting on that agency that would be sort of, above that industry, and tracking it, because most of the agencies have at least annual forums where they have an opening for new vendors to get in the door. They have presentations, they have speakers, and they lay out exactly what it is. Each department has, sort of different credentials that are needed. Maybe it's an insurance or, background or years in business, whatever that might be. So look at that. This is probably a particularly interesting year because it will be virtual, so you don't have to worry about travel expenses, whatever that, forum will be. Get to know it, go on their website, and they're not a waste. If you can go in person, take that extra time to get in front, literally stand in front of whoever the head is, get to know them. They'll have an assistant with them that could get you in touch with the right people. So, kind of tying back to the previous conversations, the statements about hard work and being creative. Getting in front of leaders is important. If there's an event, that the mayor is going to be at in person, get there and meet him, right when he gets off that podium, stand in front of him, block him. Hey, mayor, I got this idea. Here's what it is. Help me out, man. I really want to do this, and have a specific question. Hey, I heard about this program. I Googled it and I found out. Who do I talk to? Can you put me in touch? Ask that question. I promise you, Mayor Suarez, and 95% of leaders will get you in touch with the right person to help you out. But I would recommend doing a little bit of the research on the front end.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Mayor Suarez, do you want to follow up with another point?
I would just say, don't come in too fast for the hug, because I got security and they may, sort of yank you away before you get to me.
But you don't have COVID, right? You already had that.
I already had it, so I'm good. I'm good. I'm immune. So that's at least according to my plasma donations. So look, I would say a couple things. One is get to know the procurement director from your city. It's easy to Google and find out who's the procurement director. For larger cities, it may be a little harder to have a meeting directly with the procurement director, but for smaller cities, it's probably easy enough to get a meeting directly with the procurement director. Everything that government touches, everything that government does is done through a process, right? There's what we call the procurement process. So whether you're a vendor that provides services or whether you provide a product, whatever it is, there's a process for you to become someone that is authorized to do business with government. And there's a reason for that. The reason why is because we want it to be fair. We want it to be transparent. We want to make sure that it's not an elected official hooking up their buddies. You know what I mean? That it's something that, that is the best deal for the residents of a particular city. So understand that process is important. And I think Jonathan said it, and I'll just reiterate it, which is you also have to get to know who the public officials are, because at the end of that process, most of the time, sometimes it can be done administratively, but at the end of that process, there's going to be a congressman or a mayor or a commissioner who's going to vote to either give you that contract or not give you that contract. And so it's important that you have a relationship with them and that they trust you. I mean, Jonathan can go into any government building in any government in our community, and it has instant credibility because of who he is and because of what he's done and what he's accomplished in the community and the relationships that he has. So, you have to build out those relationships. That stuff is not given away. That stuff is, trust and confidence is earned, and trust and confidence is, work for. So, so I would recommend that you certainly create relationships with the elected officials, but also understand the staff process. And you can probably Google, procurement department and find out what it is that you want to do and what you can provide and what is the process for being able to do it.
Thank you, Mayor Suarez, for giving a very clear directions for how you can get involved with your local county government, your local city government for business opportunities, especially for startups. And so here's a really interesting question I would love to pose to all of you. Running and growing a business is never a straight line for anyone, and there's often twists and turns. Are there any stories you're willing to share in your life that were challenges or failures that you learned from and made you better in your entrepreneurial pursuits? I believe we all learn from such experiences, and knowing that it's okay to get knocked down as long as you get up.
Wow. Yeah, from entrepreneur, I can just tell you, I learned from really football, which, molded how I view, business, being an entrepreneur. And that's because you fail so many times. And Mayor Suarez, Patrick, both mentioned it already. There's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes. And then, people don't notice that. They just see, when you have success. But there are many times where, throwing up on the field, I couldn't finish my running, out of shape, lost many times, lost many games. But you just learn from them, and you have to take the good with the bad, and understanding how to learn from those losses, as opposed to just getting mad or giving up or being frustrated. That just never works. And also understanding that people are different. Everyone is different, and you can't force anyone to see it from just your vantage point or your perspective. So I just look at how a football team, because that's the sport I played and had success with, how a football team's constructed, right? If you look at a business and how it's constructed, if you're a manager and you're, let's call it middle management, you're going to have employees that you didn't hire. You're going to have employees and people above you that you have to deal with, and you all have to find a way to get towards this common goal. And it was the same thing with football. You have players that are either recruited, or in the NFL, free agents that are drafted, or rookies that are drafted, free agents that are signed. I have no control over. All I know is that we have to find a common goal. And from that, we have to figure out how to work with each other, whether we have the same backgrounds or not. And so the failure, to your point, is when we lose a game. All right, well, we have to figure out, well, how are we going to win the next game? We may lose 2 or 3 games in a row. We still have to find a way and figure it out. So from understanding my experiences in playing sports, it evolved into entrepreneur, where, look, you may not get a deal, you may lose a deal, you may have a place where you think is going to make a ton of money, and it doesn't make any money. Things change. You have to adapt. You have to learn from it. You have to move on. And so I would say that the failure is not, there was not one failure, to be quite honest. There were many failures. It was just about learning from those failures.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Patrick or Mayor Suarez, if you want to jump in as well.
You're me, buddy.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Okay, so for me, there's 2 that come to mind. I thought Jonathan was going to say, by the way, that 2002, I think it was a Rose Bowl.
No, that was different. We got robbed.
You got robbed. I thought you were going to say that one. You should have gone with that one. That was that was a no-brainer. When the referee doesn't go your way, and it's a late BS call. So for me, I'd say two things that I remember. Well, one of them was when I ran for mayor unsuccessfully in 2013. And I ended up getting out of the race. My wife and I got pregnant after 4 years of trying on Father's Day of that year. In life, sometimes you have to take a step back to take a step forward. That's the other thing, is that failure is not always a bad thing. There's this a concept in our world where we're so competitive that only winning matters. And actually, sometimes failing or failing to succeed actually teaches you a lot more than having won. And I'll give you my second example. So I didn't get elected in 2013. I got out of that race. I sort of saw the writing on the wall and decided to wait 4 more years. The fact that I waited, I grew as a person. I learned, and I got more legislation accomplished probably in the second 4 years than I did in my first 4 years. And then I got elected by 86%. So that wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have failed in 2013, learned tremendous amount of lessons, been able to rebuild and grow as a person and as a legislator. And it made it a lot easier in 17 when I won. And then 17, when I won by 86%. I thought, oh, I have a mandate. I'm ready to go. Everyone's going to just pay attention to me, and everyone's going to listen to me. And it didn't quite work out that way. A year later, I tried to change the system of government to create what I felt was a better government for our citizens and for our residents. And I got my butt kicked. 65-35 when I tried to create a strong mayor initiative. So, it was a very humbling experience. I learned a tremendous amount from it. I learned, a lot about how to get things done and how not to do things. And everyone thinks, obviously, you're the mayor. They assume that, you always, and you think, by the way, there's a linearness to things. And in politics, I'm sure Patrick will attest, it's not linear and it's not always logical. You know what I mean? And things happen that are outside of your control, which is sort of that second lesson, which is, listen, we fool ourselves into thinking that all our destiny and our future is always in our control, and it's not always in our control. No matter how hard you work sometimes, and I'm reminded of the 2014 Texas commencement speech by William McRaven, which, by the way, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's going to be the best 18 minutes of your life. And one of the things he says is, sometimes no matter how hard you try, no matter how hard you work, you still end up failing. And that's just the way it is sometimes. And in life, you have to pick yourself up, try to learn from it, grow from it. And most of the time you'll look back on that and you'll say, man, I'm really glad that happened to me. I really became a better person. I became a better public official. I became a better father, became a better husband as a result of that.
I'll echo what was said. In politics, there's a lot of failures. You get told no a lot. There's a lot of speed bumps along the way. I recommend, it's crazy as it sounds, that more people run for public office at whatever level interests them. I'm sure the mayor would second that. You learn a lot about yourself, your friends. You learn a lot about just government and society, your community, and what's out there. Get a better understanding of the way the system works, which I think in today's ultra partisan environment would be helpful. But bottom line is you get knocked down a lot. That's a great lesson that I think Jonathan, kind of brought in as well in football, right? Literally get knocked down a lot in a more physical sense, but that's okay. That's what makes you stronger. And you apply those lessons into business, into entrepreneurship, because in the business I mentioned a little while ago with the AI company, right? As good as I think it is, and as many, as optimistic as I am, plenty of people have told me, no, it's not going to work, or they decided not to invest, or they're not into it. Doesn't matter, right? Just keep moving, right? Go on to the next person, keep pushing. If you believe in it, right? And you've got your core convictions, stick to it, right? Don't let people get you down, right? And those are all lessons I think we've had in our own, little ways in life. It applies perfectly to business as well.
Wonderful. So I think that what we've all learned from today is that failure is okay, that we should use everything to learn. Networks are super critical, and that government and business are not mutually exclusive, but rather are very much interlinked. So thank you so much to everyone for joining us today for this conversation, to all our participants. Stay tuned for new conversations in the new year. This is certainly not the end, but just a see you later. And if you're interested in learning more about Forum and experiencing more of this, please visit us at www.forum.miami. Thank you all so much for joining us, and until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.